All right. So a little bit different format than what I've done in the past. I've already pre-drawn this drawing. It turned out really well. I drew this about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I knew going into it that it was going to be one where I couldn't do all of it at once. It's a lot of detail in the background. I'm drawing the background of this 165 Massey Ferguson. And I just knew for a fact that I wouldn't get it done in one setting. So it actually took 4 times to work through it. About an hour and 45 minutes, something like that. And I pre-recorded it. I'm live right now. This is me. And we're recording. Basically, I just want to show off this drawing. It's kind of live, except my hands are free. There's my hands over there. There's my hands here. I'm holding the pencil now, but now I'm not dumb or whatever. But anyway, you also notice top corner of the screen, there's a Massey Ferguson 165 plowing a field up there. I don't know why. I thought it'd be kind of cool to set up a farming simulator of this tractor running in the background. Got a hired worker working on this field here. It's a pretty big field. There'll be a while. So we're working right now on the roof, and that's what it is. So let's get this Massey back on track right here. This is live, so anybody new comes in and doesn't understand that I'm not actually currently live drawing, I'll probably mention it again, but it is what it is. So if you're watching this and it's a recording, go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know you're watching it recorded. I like to see that type of stuff too. And we'll go from there. All right. The reason I picked this particular, I don't always draw everything everybody sends me. One, I just don't have time to. That's the biggest one. But two, sometimes, if your tires are covered in straw or manure or both, or the lighting's not great, chances are I'm probably not going to draw it. However, I love the lighting in this picture. And there is straw on the wheels. I'm going to draw that in a little while. But the lighting, with all that light coming in through the ceiling, you got those plastic panels in the tin roof that let some light in. I couldn't help but draw this thing. The tractor just kind of pops, stands out there, and really like the way it turned out. So I picked it to draw, and all in all, it's going to turn out really well. One of my favorites that I've done so far. I say that about pretty much any of the farm scenes that I've done. Any of them that's more than just a tractor. But I did really like the way this picture turned out. So, all right, and we've got about an hour and a half. We'll be together here today, and let's make the most of it. Well, I screwed that up. I was trying to adjust something, and I restarted the video somehow, and I don't see a way to... Yeah, I don't see a way to do that. So we're going to watch that part again. Just what I wanted to do, right? Make it even longer than it was. All right, if you're just joining us, I did live draw this, and now I'm talking about it. If you got any questions, leave it in the chat. We'll go from there. We've got a Massey Ferguson 165 that we're drawing currently. All right, let's find out more about this tractor. So the 165 Massey Ferguson, they made them from 1964 to 1975. I love tractordata.com, by the way. Good information. It's a row crop tractor, manufactured in Detroit, Michigan, Back when Detroit used to make things. Anybody from Detroit, you still making anything up there? Let me know in the comments. Let's see, had a 58 horsepower engine. Yeah, 58 horsepower. Came with, well, four different engines. You had a Perkins 3.3 4-cylinder, Continental 2.9 4-cylinder, and then a Perkins 3.5 4-cylinder diesel and a 3.5 Perkins gas. How many did they make? Does it say how many they made? Original price was $6,700 in 1975. Very cool. 3 different transmission options, 12-speed partial power shift, a 6-speed, and an 8-speed. He's made these things for quite a while. I think this is the second 165 I've drawn. It might not have been a 165 I drew before. They got a good look to the tractor. I like the square boxy hoods with the recessed grill underneath. It's, you know, I think most tractors of this era did that, with the exception of John Deere, which I don't like, so it works out. A lot of them did that. All right, where's my people at? There's nobody in this chat. So when I go in with the pencils, I got the white pencil here at the top you're working with right now. Sometimes I'll put a base layer down of white, and then I'll go over it with a gray, and then I'll come back to it with white, and I'll just keep blending on top of each other. That's kind of what you're seeing there. For my pencils, I use General brand charcoal pencils. I think I was using 4Bs, 2Bs, and 4Bs on this pencil, on this drawing. Doesn't really make a difference. You can get a lot of the same tones out of pretty much all of them. The tools I use, of course, I got the charcoal pencil we just showed you. I got a General brand pastel chalk pencil. It's a 4414 model. They work really good. So if you're looking for a 4414 General brand, it's all worn off because I've used it. And then you're going to have some sort of blending stumps. These start out white on the end, and then you just kind of smudge over, and it becomes what it is. Good stuff. Let's see what else I got. I got a eraser that we use here. It's like they call it a Mono Zero. It's a mechanical eraser. Very similar to a mechanical pencil, as you can pump it out and push it back in. Well, that one's running out. That's the end of the end of the line for that one. I have to replace that before I draw again. Very nice. Glad I found that now and not in the middle of a live. Like drawing. Throwing me for a loop. And then I keep a paddle of sandpaper around. You can use this for cleaning off the blending stumps. You can use it for sharpening pencils. I need a couple good erasers. I like these rubber erasers that you can row all day on it, and it's not going to destroy your paper as much as like a coarse eraser. Works really good. And then I use a basic little red pencil sharpener. That's about it. There's not a lot of tricks to these trades here. All right. So we're just putting some details into the roof. All right. Anything that I want to show up. This is kind of the same process I use for engine compartments. I'll put some thick lines underneath of the gray, and I'll fade it out as I go. Kind of like so. And then when I come back over with the blending stump, anything that was white will just show up a much lighter shade of gray. So I just, putting that base gray down there again. I don't think I've smudged anything yet. I've been just working on that. You can see, I got, if you look at the reference photo down in the right corner, some of that is, there's lighter sections on what I'm drawing. There's darker sections. I'm just trying to put the light down where the light goes. dark down where the dark goes. It seems simple and obvious, but I mean, in reality, that's what makes these things look good is the contrast. And I like to hide some details behind the coal and bring it out with the thing, with the blending stump. You notice when I started, I had a pretty thick white at the bottom of that triangle there, and there was a very thin white at the top, and I did the exact opposite with the charcoal. Started off at the bottom, pretty light, top thick. I'm covering everything over here, but all that detail will come out here in a minute. I just want something good to start with. Put some nice edges on here. Going back over another layer of white. I want to make sure I pull that white out of the bottom that you see there. All right. And I'm just going to go back through here. Find some more areas that, there's another board up here. Looking through that, it's kind of darker. But it's got a bright side to it, so. Like I said, I'm trying out a new format here. I like the ability to just kind of talk freely and not have to worry about drawing while I'm talking. I don't know that it creates quite a good of a product, but it does help me focus on what I'm doing currently. I'm kind of off the top of the page here. Let's see if I can get that back down. Yeah, it's not that far off. There you go. Now you can see what I'm doing up there. You can see this. There's like a white triangle here. It's not white, but in the picture it's brown. Got a lot of light showing, so doing that. Starting up here with the darkest stuff, and we're going to blend off as we go. Just to get some color on there. I don't want it to be like white and popping out at you and just standing out. I want it to be just a nice tone of gray. All right, 17 minutes in. Now, for those of you who was here at the very beginning, you know that I screwed up and started the video again about 3 or 4 minutes in. So, we've got another hour and a half or so to go with this. All right. Just blending everything a little bit with the white pencil as I go. Sometimes you can use the white or even the darker pencil to start blending things together. And you come back with a blending stump once everything's set in stone. There's a blending stump here. I like to do whole areas at once. Most of the time I'll work light to dark. It just helps to keep the blending stump clear. So you can see I'm hitting all these trusses and the boards that are going across. And then I'll fill the areas, kind of starting in the front and moving back in this case. It helps to give a little bit of a depth perception when the stuff in the back's a little blurrier than the stuff in the front. So that's kind of a trick of the trade a little bit. Now, I always put a mat on my finished products. Put a mat around it. Then I don't have to have too much focus on the edge of the paper. If you start drawing right up to the edge of the paper, it just doesn't work. You end up ruining your paper, taking yourself off from curling the paper up, and it just doesn't do very good. So I can leave a pretty rough edge like I have here, and then I just cover it with a mat, and it works pretty well. The blending process is not very difficult. In a lot of cases, you can just run it across, like you're coloring with a crayon, and it'll be fine. I like to take a little bit more time, not like a crayon, and I like to, pick out the different shapes and go with it. So that's what we're doing. I wonder if I can, do I have another phone here? No, the other one's dead. I was going to see if I can go live on TikTok also. That ain't working. All right, let's check on our field over here. I know most of you don't even care that this exists, but there's we got a very little plow and a very big field. It's over 100 acres, and we're doing it with a little dinky 2-bottom plow. I thought this would be something nice to have, just a little something extra on the screen to look at. Didn't even properly clean that field. There's windrows of hay or straw and everything else here. Who's in charge of this thing? Tractor's pretty close. And I did notice that the cab is different. This one that I'm drawing, it appears to be like a soft top of some sort. I can't really tell from the pictures, but the back section looks to be canvas to me. So, spending a good bit of time in the ceiling here. This is more, so my normal drawings, they'll take 45 minutes to an hour, something like that. And there's not a lot to them, not a lot of detail going into them. It's most of the time it's just a tractor, no background. I wanted to do something just a little bit different here, and that's why we got the background. I'm taking my time on it, putting a lot of detail into the roof, because I think that roof really makes the whole thing. There's a little light poking out there from that opening. I think with charcoal drawings, it's important to have a lot of light, a little different contrast and that type of stuff. So this was a very good candidate for that. All right, if you're just stopping by, let me know in the comments where you're from. Helps to break up the monotony if y'all talk in the comments. So, all right. So after I went through with the blender, I'm coming back, adding a little teeny bits of detail here. Most of this with the white pencil, and a little bit with the charcoal here and there. Notice the slats right below where we're at. They're going to be right in here. They're a lot of light showing through this barn. It's like a rickety old barn with slats, that show the light through. Pretty excited for drawing those. It always makes it good if you've got some sort of backlight going on. And this was just great. So. All right. With that said, I'm going to turn my camera off here for a second. And we'll turn our voice off, and somebody comes into the chat, we'll start talking to them. If you got any questions, feel free to ask. Hey Brandon, what's going on? Got sound now? How about that? we was So this was previously recorded. I'm actually live though, talking. Let's see. There I am. How you doing? We previously drew this, but it took too long to sit in one setting and do it. So I recorded it ahead of time. I'm just talking to people in the comments now. So you got sound now, yeah. I had everything muted here, working through a few technical issues just a minute ago. I'm back now. How you doing today? So we're drawing a Massey Ferguson 165 in a barn. You good at art? Thanks, buddy. I love drawing. It's one of my favorite things to do. It really is. Very relaxing. Very relaxing. Anyway, I was trying to figure out a way that I could draw this live and do it in one stream and not be like completely exhausted and mentally drained when I was done. Because drawing something like this kind of takes it out of you. This is about 2 hours worth of drawing, I guess, total. And anyway, I came up with this idea where I could just live stream it like this. So that's what we're doing. So anyway, appreciate you stopping by and taking a look at what I'm doing here. Feel free to ask questions or leave comments or whatever. We'll be here for a little while yet. Haven't even got to the tractor yet. Been working on the background pretty much the whole time. All right, we'll get rid of my ugly face for a few minutes here. I'm still trying to work out this technical issue. If you were here at the beginning, I had a stream of Farming Simulator up in the top corner of the screen. And it was working pretty cool. And it was actually a Massey Ferguson 165 that I was driving in there. And I thought it was cool to have it up there. But then it crashed. Trying to do too much at once, I think. So anyway, we'll work on getting that back up there here in a little bit. If we don't, no harm done. A slow day here on YouTube. Saturday afternoons in the summer are always pretty slow, though, I think, especially with my niche market. You know, the farmers outside doing stuff. So you draw trucks. I do draw trucks occasionally. I like to draw trucks from time to time. It's got to be the right truck, though. I don't just draw trucks just for the sake of drawing trucks. I like to draw something I really want to draw. So. What type of truck you got? You're asking about. We'll go back to just that. Let's see if we got any truck pictures here I can show. Not exactly a truck, but close enough. There's a old Bronco that I drew. Trying to show it without the microphone in the way is kind of a pain. Drew that. Let's see. Here's a Ford Ranger drag truck I drew. Oh, you don't own any trucks. All right. Yeah. Can't draw your truck then. What else we got? I feel like I got a couple other pictures in here that are good. Can't find them right off the bat. Yep. Well, that's all I got right here. So. All right, so pretty much done that top corner of the drawing. We've got like a chain thing going across there. It's like a chain hanging across and then drooping down. I'd like to think it's not holding the barn up, but I know my grandfather's farm, there was definitely some corn cribs that were chained to another corn crib so they wouldn't fall apart. And I want a square body, though. Square body Ford, square body Chevy. I like that series, like the whole 70s and 80s square bodies. They were great looking trucks, styling wise. I was a Chevy guy myself. Oh, you said Chevy square body, okay. Yeah, I like the Chevy. My first truck was an '88 GMC Sierra, but it had a Silverado grill. It had so many different parts of trucks in there, and it was blue and a little bit of red, some other colors. Anyway, it wasn't much to write home about, but I sure did like that truck. But that was a newer style, you know, the newer style. There wasn't the square body. I always liked the old square bodies though. One of my friends in high school had I think it was an '85 square body Chevy. Love that old truck. But you know the Fords looked good of that series too. I don't know what Dodge was doing then, but the Fords and Chevys both looked good back then. Good stuff. Yeah, Brendan Miller's leaving comments. I went to school with a guy named Brendan Miller. I don't think it's the same guy, though. He'd be almost 40 by now. He was a pretty good friend of mine for a few years. This part that I'm drawing here is another thing that I saw that I really just wanted to make on both sides. I'll be back in a bit. Phone, fina, die. LOL. Be right back. Gotcha. The gates. You got some gates in here. I really like the way that they look. So, you know, putting a real dark line right beside a real light line and then smudging it over, it'll win every time. It'll make it look really good every single time. So, you're always learning all my tricks. I'm going to shut my camera off here for a little bit, and I'm going to shut my microphone off, and if somebody comes in here, I'll turn it back on. All right, so got the whole left side of the barn done. And what I'm doing here, this is actually the second time I sat down to draw. First time being that whole left side of the barn. You might have seen the color changed a little bit there a minute ago. That's the only real way you can tell. My lighting changed a little bit. I rely a lot on outdoor lighting. You can probably see the reflection in my glasses. I got a ring light right here. And then I got a window to my side. So anyway, too much information, but this is the second thing we drew. Starting on the tractor hood. If you look in here, there's kind of a real bright reflection on the reference photo. There's a bright reflection there on silver, so that's got to be even lighter. Just trying to hit all the highlights there as I go on that section, and then I can come back in with other pencils. So I want to make sure I get this kind of saturated real dark underneath of here, because it's a dark shadow there. Part of the reason I like this drawing so much was that dark shadow. This isn't quite as dark, so I'm just keeping a little less pressure as I go. Real dark right under the logos, and I just want to catch that shadow that's in there. Nice crisp edge. I don't do too much with logos. If anybody asks, that's the Triforce from Legend of Zelda. Just kidding. It's not. They'll sue me quicker than Massey Ferguson will, I bet. Won't mess with Nintendo from what I hear. It's all good. It's just 3 triangles just hanging out there. So there, I'm just making that more of a red color by just going over it now with some white after I had the gray in there. Just blending it a little bit. I'll come back with the blending stuff for the major blending, but just trying to catch most of the lighter stuff as I go. If you got any questions on how to do what I'm doing, feel free to drop questions in the comments. Be happy to answer them as best I can. What I do is not rocket surgery. It's pretty easy. If you've got kind of an eye for tone, it's real easy. If you don't, then it's going to be really difficult. But I'd almost guarantee most people can draw better than they think they can. When I first started out drawing, one of the things I saw, I think it was a YouTube video, don't know who it was, unfortunately. They said, don't draw what you think you see. Draw what you actually see. And that might sound really dumb, because, like, what do you mean draw what I did draw what I see. That's what draw what you actually see. So, like right here, that's a rectangle. Draw the rectangle, fill it in, and then fill in the tones inside of there. You know, you don't have to draw a grill. Draw another rectangle. Let's see, what am I going to next here? Draw a line. You know, find things in there that pop out and draw them. You know, here's a rectangle with a weird curved side. Nice, easy, done. You know, there's a little triangle looking thing. It's not quite a triangle. You know, once you get the tones in, or the shape done, just put the tones in. That's all there is to it. Move to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Now, if you have trouble doing the outline in the background, there's a couple ways to get around that. One, you can trace. Nobody's going to judge you. Actually, everybody's going to judge you. That's just how the world works. If you do something that looks good and you had to trace to do it, they're just going to say it looks like crap. That's just how people are. But it's your art. And if you want it to be traced, then do it. You got to start somewhere. The other thing you can do a charcoal transfer. You take a charcoal pencil, you know, Regular charcoal pencil. Just turn my camera back on so I can talk to y'all. You can see me. There it is. All right, regular charcoal pencil. Color all over the back side of a reference photo. Now, do it on paper so that you don't ruin a photo. Print out a black and white picture of what you're doing. Scribble all across the back as thick as you can with charcoal. Flip it over. Take a little bit harder pencil, like a graphite pencil of some sort, and then trace over that on the outside, on the other side. That'll give you a good background. That's what I do for most of my stuff. Now, I could sit there and I could freehand draw it. It would take a while. It wouldn't quite look as good, but it'd be real close. I could trace. People would criticize me. I can do charcoal transfer. People still criticize me. Or I could use the next method, which is using a grid. Take a grid, put it over your photo, and then draw the grid and just trace what you see in each box. It's much easier. You did that as a kid in coloring books. Don't tell me you can't do it. Everybody can do it. That's the way that I think is probably the best for me. But the charcoal transfer is much quicker for the amount of drawings I want to turn out, and I enjoy shading. I don't necessarily enjoy the backgrounds. So to get around that, I use charcoal transfer. And if people want to criticize me for that, that's fine. It's what it is. I really don't care what people think. If you want to buy a drawing, you can buy a drawing. If you don't, and you just want to criticize, feel free. You're just driving hits to my YouTube when you do it publicly. Anyway. Headlights are one of my favorite things to draw because there's not much to them. You take a circle, like not even a circle, an ellipse or an oval. Looks like an egg. You put a couple lines on the top, a couple lines on the bottom, and then you shade it according to what you see. Most of the time that's going to be pretty heavily white with some gray showing through. But I'm spending a lot of time on this grill. This grill is the one thing other than the background that I think is going to make or break this drawing. The back tire, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. Not a lot of detail. The grill, the engine, and the background. That's the three things that I wanted to focus on heavily on this. So, I spent a lot of time on that background on the left side. I spent a lot of time on the grill so far, still working on it. And I want it to almost look like, it's popping off the page. A good test that I'll do sometimes, I'll go on Facebook after I'm done here, and I'll upload the photo, and then I'll go into the 3D photo feature, and I'll put it in as 3D, and then I'll move it back and forth on my phone. And a lot of times it'll pop off the screen, and it'll move around like a 3D object, and I know at that point I've just tricked their algorithm into thinking it was real. And that's a really good test, to see. The other test is to look at it. And if you look at it and it looks good, well, then you did good. And if you look at it and it doesn't look good, figure out what you did wrong and don't do that again. I always give the suggestion of people starting out. People ask, what should I do? What should I do to get better? And my best advice that I can give to anybody is every time you draw, look at something you did and that you can do better, and try to improve one thing every time. If you do that every single time, you're going to learn quick how to do things. So that's that. All right, so adding a little bit of depth to this is just as simple as putting the shadows where they need to go. So we did that, and then we're just going back over that and kind of muting it out a little bit. I don't want it quite as poppy as it is. There it is. Oh, man. I should get more sleep before going live. What do y'all think? Good plan. All right, I'm going to go silent for a few minutes here again. If someone jumps in the comments, I'll be back out to talk. All right, coming up on halfway through the drawing. If you're just joining, just to let you know, there's a new format I'm trying here. This is my hands. They're moving around here. They're also on the screen. This drawing was going to take too long to draw live for me to sit and focus on it. This is one that I really want to put some time and effort into. So we took some time to actually draw it nicely. I recorded it, and now I'm playing it back and responding to the comments. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or whatnot, and I'll see if I can answer them. What I'm doing on the screen right now is stuff that I normally wouldn't do for one of my live streams, but I really wanted to get the detail of all the straw that's stuck to the wheels of this. I hope it's mud. It's probably manure. You know how it goes. It's a farm. Oh, man. You know, I left the farm when I was right at the end of middle school. We moved off the farm. And then my grandfather had a farm. I worked on a little bit through high school. We had, my dad was a farm mechanic, so I was around farms a lot. But the actual day-to-day farm work, since I got to high school, I haven't really done that life. But I just remember growing up on a farm, there was always manure everywhere. No matter how hard you tried, your boots got crap on them. and that's, maybe that was just our farm. We were slops or something. We didn't have a ton of cattle, but we did have a ton of manure everywhere. We raise sweet corn, and you go out and spread shit on the sweet corn field and spread shit on the garden, and next thing you know, the whole farm's full of it. So, what's going on, Colton? How you doing? All right, so everybody that's just joining, it's a different format. I'm actually live here. I'm here, but my hands are free. It's a little different than what I normally do. And I've already drawn this like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I wanted to spend a little more time in it, take my time on it, and it was going to take longer and more patience than I could do in one sitting, so I pre-recorded it. So, doing a custom IH 856. Very nice. That's cool. The nice thing is this gives me freedom and flexibility to do other things. Like right now, I'm going to go look and see what horsepower an 856 had. I like being able to do this. 856. Good looking tractor, by the way. All right, I like it. I like it. Where's the engine? Oh. Drawbar, 90 horsepower. PTO claimed and tested about 100 horsepower. 856. All right, 3 different engines available. Diesel, gas, and LP. I assume the LP and the gas engine are the same. What's your favorite IH tractor that you've done? Oh yeah, that's pretty easy. Hold on a second. Let me go grab it. I'll just show you instead of let me find it. Hold on. All right, here it is. See if I can get it up in here without screwing up the microphone. It's kind of tough to see. Well, it's my logo that's down there. I like my dad. It was my dad's tractor. My dad, he had a 1952 Farmall Super M, and there's a 52 Super M back there on the table. There's another one over here. That's my favorite tractor by far. And it was my dad's tractor. That tractor, I tell everybody, that tractor kind of grew up more as a brother to me than a tractor. It's just how things were. I definitely was close to that tractor. Tractors have personality, I guess. This one did. And I drew it, and it really came out. So, have you done a Big Bud 747? I haven't done any Big Buds. There's a good reason for that. I haven't found any pictures of Big Bud that I've ever taken myself or someone that's taken themselves. If you've got a picture that you took yourself of a Big Bud, love to draw one. Really would love to draw one. For copyright reasons, if I don't know the photographer who took the picture, I won't draw it. The only exception to that is the people who send me the picture and say, hey, I took this picture, will you draw it? I'll always ask, do I have your permission to draw it? If I get their permission, by all means, I'll draw it. But I don't want to steal someone's credit for, a drawing or a photo and draw it. So it's kind of the motto I live by, is I won't draw something. So if anybody's got Big Bud 747 or any Big Bud for that matter, I sure would love to draw one. I've just never seen one in person. I don't think there's many of them out there. I knew the story of those tractors at one point. I don't right now. I know RFD TV used to have a special that had the Big Bud on there, and I watched it a few times with my dad, and I just can't remember what it was. Wait, I've got internet here. We can look it up and see. How do you do white on color pencil? Okay, so I'm going to try to answer that. For what I'm doing right now, this is black and white. This is a white pastel chalk pencil, General Model 4414, and it's just white, right? So I'll use the white, and I'll color it in with white, and then I'll mix it with charcoal. If I'm actually doing colored pencils, though, I use the Prismacolor brand color pencils. They're quite expensive. Like, I think this is probably $50 for the pencils in one tin here, something like that. And for those, white. There it is, Prismacolor. I wore off the label, but you have to trust me. It's Prismacolor white colored pencil. Yeah, Prismacolor white color pencil. I don't do too much with color pencils. I love working with them. They're so expensive, time consuming, and they kind of hurt to draw with for as much detail as I put in. This drawing here took about 2 hours, give or take, half hour. And if I was to do the same thing with a colored pencil, it's probably a week's worth of work to get this much detail. So, have you thought of doing construction equipment? Yes, I have, as a matter of fact. I took some pictures earlier today. of an antique road grader. Actually, 2 antique road graders, an old steam shovel. What else? A couple rollers. I was at a tractor show in eastern Nebraska this morning. They had like some construction equipment there, antique construction equipment. I've actually had a few guys asked about drawing their bulldozer, that they work for a contractor, and an excavation contract, and they asked if I do theirs. So I'll do that type of stuff. I don't have any I can show you right now of that type of stuff, but I do plan on real soon doing some stuff. I actually just took a picture of a crop duster today too, to try to do a crop duster. Pretty crazy. It was out there spraying a sprayer, crop sprayer. It was out there spraying a field, and I pulled over to the side of the road and took a picture while it was coming towards me. So I use Sharpie. Yeah, Sharpies are very useful. I've actually found a few guys in the past who have used Sharpies with the charcoal to darken up the darkest sections. They'll put a layer of Sharpie down underneath the black. I don't do it myself. It's nothing I've ever tried, but I've seen some guys on YouTube doing it. So about halfway done this drawing at this point, and it's looking good. It's turning out pretty good. I like what I'm seeing. We got to the point where I could take the tracing paper off and stop blocking the view. So this up here is just I think it's like plywood, and it's been stapled in, with those wide like staples they use for trusses and whatnot. So that real thick right there is kind of the reflection that the staples are giving. So any tips on getting the right kind of red for doing Farmall tractors? Okay. Well, I'm going to say one thing first, and then I'll show you the right answer. Rust-Oleum Regal Red is really, really close to Farmall. So if you're spray painting, that would be the way. That's the red that I got. It's pretty close, not far off. That's one of my Prismacolor color pencil drawings. I'm not too happy with the green that I got here. It's a little pale, but the red turned out really good on that. Using the Prismacolor, I think this is the one. Crimson Red. That's Prismacolor PC924. Crimson Red. And then mix some white and black in with it before you smash it out. That's the best I found. Now, that's a pretty generic answer to that question. But if you're using Prismacolors, that's the way. If you're using something else, find something that's real close, and then you got to be able to blend it though. You got to have color pencils that'll blend. I'll give you back to this example. Give me a second. Actually, orange is more difficult to match, and I did a pretty good job matching that orange too. I don't have a ton of color pencil stuff that I've done. So every bit of this, it looks like it's just red, right? If you used to look at that closely, right, it just kind of looks like it's a solid red. But what you don't realize is there's a white stripe right there. There's a black stripe and a white stripe right there. And this turns into more of pink when I've got those stripes in there, if you can see. So if you've got something you can break up with that, you can use your shading to get the right color. You don't have to have the exact right color. The worst part's going to be open areas like this right here, because there's no shading anywhere around it. And you kind of got to get that as close as you can, darken it, lighten it as you go. Anyway, I don't know, I work with the Prismacolors. They're expensive, but they work really good. They blend out smooth. I'm probably going to get back to that pretty soon. If this format works where I can pre-record and then talk about the stuff as I'm going, I can probably do some color pencil stuff. I can't sit for more than about 15 minutes with color pencils, though. Right here on my finger will go raw, like completely raw if I'm working. I've gotten to the point before where I've bruised these two fingers coloring with the color pencil. I've even done this finger with the charcoal, but I'll get to the point where this one's hurting, so I'll move to that one, and then things get a little sloppy and doesn't look good, and then I'll end up with two bruised fingers. It's like, well, this ain't no good. It doesn't really work. So, all right, I just looked up. We was talking about the Big Bud tractors a while ago, and I looked up Big Bud. Don't do that. Apparently, that's that's a brand of something I can't buy in the state. So let's look at Big Bud tractor. Oh my. 16. Let's see. Here we go. Big Bud 747 is a large custom-made farm tractor built in Havre, Montana, in 1977. Has 1,100 horsepower. It's built by the owners and exhibitors as the world's largest farm tractors, about twice the size of many of the largest production tractors in the world, depending on parameter. That's crazy. It's big. How many are there? Is it just one built? I don't know. First two big bud tractors are built out of Harvey, Montana. Purchased by letter. I guess they built a bunch of them. Yeah, it's a good looking tractor. It's huge though. Huge. "16-cylinder Detroit diesel." I can only imagine what that thing sounds like. I mean, shoot, Detroit sound amazing as it is. I can only imagine when you get a 16-cylinder two-cycle Detroit. Two-cycle Detroit. That's gonna be amazing. What's up, Moose Cabin? How you doing, buddy? If you're wondering why my hands aren't moving along with what's going on over here, that's pre-recorded. This is live. So I got a little more detail in this one than what I normally do, and I wanted to actually put some time into it and do it right. So I had to record this in 4 parts, put it together, and now I'm talking about it. So if you got any questions, comments, concerns, I'm happy to answer them here. Otherwise, I'm just kind of sitting quietly and carrying on the conversation. We were just talking about the big bud tractors. Someone asked if I ever drew one, and I said I had not because I've never seen one in person. And no one's ever sent me a picture of one that they took. I wonder how I can get to see one. Let's see. See big bud tractor. See if there's anywhere like I can go and look at one. Where is the big bud tractor now? The Heartland Museum. Where's the Heartland Museum? Now I've got to go on a wild goose chase here to see where it's at and what it is. I want to see this thing. See the big bud in action. Here we go. No, that's not going to work. Oh, it's in Montana. Pretty amazing stuff you do. Thank you. Thank you so much. I enjoy it. I'm trying to restructure myself so that I can try to make a little bit of money off of these things. Make it worth my time. For quite a while, I was doing it just to get my name out there and build up YouTube following. And I'll be honest with you, doing it that way will burn me out quick. I need to find a way that I can support myself with this if I'm going to keep doing it. So anyway, I think you'll be seeing a lot more stuff like this in the future, where it's a full background and not just a tractor on the front that I drew in an hour. I want to put a lot of thought and a lot of time into what I do. Take all of my content and make it extremely well done instead of just great. I don't know. I've got some ideas. I appreciate you saying it's amazing, though, because that means a lot to me. It really does. So we were talking about Big Bud. Sounds like there's one of them you can see in Montana. There might be one in Iowa, the Heartland Museum, just not very far from me. I don't know if that's true or not. Let's figure that out. North of Des Moines. Yeah, that's only a few hours away. Well, it looks like I missed it. The Big Bud is no longer at the Heartland Museum. Sounds like the William brothers may have put it back in the field. Huh. That's neat. All right, so notice the right side of the background, a lot more detailed than what the left side of the background was. Well, not detailed, it's just brighter. And it's going to darken out a little bit as I go, but part of it is all that light coming in through those glass or those plastic panels on the roof, fiberglass panels, whatever they are, that let the light into this barn. And, like on the other side, I'm going to each beam individually. You know how the light's coming in there, so that part's obviously lighter than the rest. Almost looks like it's curved. It's not. It's just the way the light's hitting it. It's very bright right where it's touching. All right, you can see my face in there. I was definitely getting a little too close to the camera. That's my cheek hair right there. So I can, all this stuff that's really dark, I can put a lot of pressure and really saturate it. Stuff that's lighter, got to take a little less pressure, a little more time maybe, and go across it. I'll make sure I've got the brightness where it needs to be. Once again, I appreciate y'all stopping by. I enjoy sharing with the world what I'm doing here. Thinking about doing some tractor shows and setting up in some flea market stands, doing some live drawing at different places. If anybody's got suggestions of good ones, please let me know. Also thinking about doing a little bit bigger format stuff. So everything I've done so far is on a 8 by 10. It's on 9 by 11 paper, but then I mat it down to 8 by 10. Considering going up in size a little bit. We'll see. I'm going to drop off here for a few minutes. I'm still here. If y'all got questions in the comments, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here quietly and answer any questions you got and talk about anything interesting that comes up. But we're about a half hour away from finishing this one, I'd say. Maybe 40 minutes or so. Getting close. I'd say by about 6:30, 6:45 Central Time, this one will be done and in the books. And we can move on to something else. So for these panels in the top that are kind of lighted, after, I got them extremely bright, it's contrasting right against some dark stuff. But then I'm going to take in a minute with the coal that I have on my blending stump, and I'll very, very lightly kind of drag it across there. That'll make it look more like, there's some ridges there, some perforations. You can kind of, yeah, there we go, just like that. Very light. Just want it to be, perforated slightly. I already did that on the other side, so that ceiling's looking good, looking real good. You notice on the left side there's that chain there. The secret to drilling chain is pretty easy. You do an oval, and then you do a line for the next link. That's it. If you look at a chain, most of the time you're not looking on it directly from the side, so you might want to put two small lines beside each other. For this, this board's got a lot of wood grain in it, so I put some pretty thin lines of white down, and I'm going back over and just kind of putting some layers in here and just kind of keeping some loose charcoal there that I can blend out to make the wood grain. For those of you wondering where the farming simulator in the top right corner went that was there, I had a farming simulator 165 Massey Ferguson. That tractor does not want to stay running. No matter what I do, it crashes every time. So I think I'm trying to run too much here. I've got two computers. I've got one that was running the farm simulator. It's also got my YouTube control, stream control up. But the map that I was using, huge map, I was just pushing everything too much, and I think with the modded tractor in there, it just decided to crash constantly. It seemed to crash every time I would come off the screen and try to do anything on YouTube. So we'll figure that out one of these days. I thought it'd be cool, but it turned out it was just a pain in the butt. So All right, I'm going to shut off my microphone for a little bit, and we'll talk in a bit if there's anything to talk about. All right, the advice I can give for doing cabs of tractors, don't overwork much of any of it. Typically around windows, if you're drawing windows, there's some sort of weather stripping or just a thin bead of rubber of some sort holding the window in place. Uh, with with those, just draw a simple black line, put a simple white line beside it, be done with it. For glass, put a bunch of detail behind, and then go over it. Maybe white, maybe dark, whatever you're seeing for this. This one there's a lot of reflection, so I used white. Keep it rough, and then blend it very, very, very softly. That's about it. It's a pretty simple process. So just going back across, I want to, got the white in there. I'm using a darker stump now. We're just making a few bigger passes across here. Just something to show that maybe there's a reflection there. The best thing we're doing here is just building a force field, like a wall of glass in front of things. You want to smudge the stuff behind it without smudging, the glass itself, like that windshield wiper. It'd be a shame if I was to smudge that. So keep that nice and crisp, but the stuff behind it, don't. For the weather stripping, keep a nice crisp line on the edge. You can darken a little bit with a blending stump like I just did. Make that nice and crisp. Not much to it though. I definitely windows and cabs was one thing where I normally stuck in the 50s with tractors and didn't do anything any newer than that. I didn't do anything with cabs because I was afraid of the I was afraid of the window. Where there's dark inside the window, don't be afraid to put the dark. And if you're finding that you've gone too far with making it nice, you can go back over with some streaks and just smudge that best you can. Keeping the crisp windshield wiper versus everything behind being blurred, though, is the real trick to that. It's kind of the same with right here. You've got the white on the top of this cabinet goes into something dark. That contrast there of dark to white, light, dark to light. It doesn't matter if it's dark to light or blurry to sharp. You get contrast. That's what's going to make things look good. I never went to art school. I was basically just had a crayon or a pencil in my hand since the time I could hold one. I spent a lot of time drawing as a kid. And now I've spent a good bit of time drawing as an adult. I was a professional draftsman for several years. I worked in the engineering department at a automation company. Still work at the company. Don't do the drawing anymore. When I was in middle school, you're doing like career day stuff, and the guidance counselor asked, "What do you like to do?" And I said, "I like to draw." I'm thinking to myself, I'd like to be some sort of a graphic artist or something like this. And the guidance counselor is like, "If you want to make money drawing, just become a drafter. You can do technical drawing." That was some of the worst advice I ever got, because art and technical drawing are two completely different things. Other than sitting behind a table and drawing with a pencil, that's pretty much where it stops. The other thing that hit is I went through a VOTEC program in 2000 and 2001 where they taught you all the ins and outs of technical drawing, drafting, hand drawing. And I was really good at it. But we also had this thing that we were using called AutoCAD. And after I got out of school, I've never touched technical drawing again in my life. It all went to AutoCAD, and I became an AutoCAD technician, doing that type of stuff. And that's not, did not meet my artistic needs that I have. And I had to do something like this. Well, what do? I go and get a tattoo, and I'll show the tattoo here. Hold on a second. Let me get the camera on. I got this tattoo done. It's a Stratocaster guitar and a big cross. Goes all the way around. And as I'm getting that tattoo done, Johnny, the tattoo artist, I'm watching him draw it out. I'm like, that looks like fun. I want to be a tattoo artist. Knowing that that's not going to happen in my life, I went home, got a piece of paper out, and I started trying to draw my dad's tractor, that 52 Super M, in the same methods that I saw the tattoo artist using just a couple hours earlier. And it was so impressive to see him do it. And I came home and I'm like, I'm going to try it. And I started drawing, and then I'm like, well, I could do this better. And then I drew it again, and like, wow, it looks really good, but I could do this better. And I kept doing that for the last 12 years. That's essentially how I got started in drawing as an adult. Just kept drawing until I got happy with it, and still to this point, I'll look at this drawing, and I'm not going to tell you what they are, but I can see three things right here that I can improve on this one so far, and I'm not even done. I'm only 3/4 of the way done. So that's the way I got started doing this. Now, I also ran the tractor pulling website Turbo Smoke. If y'all remember that, there was a game, first a flash game, where you do tractor pulling on the game. And then after that, I created the app for the iPhone and Android. And that's all gone away now at this point, unfortunately. I was not able to keep up with the development of the game. It just burnt me out. It was too much for one person. Nonetheless, I tried it. But on the Facebook page for that, I showed a picture that I drew of my dad's tractor, and then somebody said, "Hey, can you draw mine?" I'm like, "Sure, I can draw yours." And then someone else said, "Hey, can you draw mine?" I'm sure I can draw yours. And by the time I was done, I had quite a little following there of people who wanted me to draw their stuff, and to the point where I started actually making a little bit of money doing the drawings. I had a couple guys, for Christmas presents, do some pretty good stuff, and I had a few just kind of bad customers that kind of just ruined it for me. I gave up on it. In 2012, I stopped drawing, and I didn't draw again. I think I drew one more thing since then, up until about a year ago, a few weeks ago. And really started working with charcoal then. And just love charcoal. Graphite's all right. Charcoal's where it's at for me, though. Really do enjoy that. One thing to notice, I just went over the windshield again. And each time I do that, I'm adding a new layer of coal, which is also smudging everything behind. So it's given a little bit more depth, just what I was going for there. You know, there's a pretty deep shadow around that round logo. That's I think that's probably my favorite feature of this tractor, other than the grill and the hood. The way they come together is that logo, the round logo. I remember seeing, Massey Ferguson lawn tractors from back in the day that have the same thing. It's just very iconic. You can tell, from a long distance away that this is a Massey, not a Farmall. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious, but my point is it's pretty good branding. They got that raised circular logo. Just really looks good on there. So that was what I was getting at. Notice here I'm blending again with the white pencil instead of using the blending stump. We'll come back with a blending stump later, but we're layering some light and dark on top of each other. It'll make it easier to blend later. It's also a good way to get the color red. I know I'm drawing in black and white, but you can kind of tell what color things are to an extent, and getting that red color in there is kind of important to me. Reds and oranges are pretty easy to draw. Believe it or not, when you're trying to draw a green, that gets really tough. John Deere green's tougher than Oliver green. Oliver green's pretty easy because it almost gives off a red hue. For color pencils, I think I never did get a good green that matches the John Deere color. I just kind of gave up on it. I got close. I got real close. Now notice on my outline there's just like a few random lines in the engine compartment. There's not much of an engine that stands out from the rest when you're working through that. So yeah, I just normally pick whatever I see that has a little bit of a highlight in there. And later on we'll go through with a white pencil and we'll do that. I'm doing the same thing with this window, just putting some highlights behind it and then putting a layer of the different shades in there. And then we'll do the same thing we did with the windshield, a couple times over it, very lightly with the smudging, and just trying to get the right tones in the right places. We can blend a little bit with the white pencil. There's a lot that goes on inside of here. Like right now, what we're looking at is the bottom of the seat. There's some levers and stuff. There's mostly it's just the bottom of the seat where your feet would rest, the footboards. I think you can kind of see the clutch in there to a little bit of extent. Not in any great detail, but you can see all that kind of in there. And it's all just kind of poking out. Same thing we'll do with the engine compartment. You just make it poke out just a little bit. Nothing crazy. We've got that weather stripping line going across the top of the hood right there, like that. That's a good breaking point that you can kind of, put a little detail in there. We can lighten it up if we need to later. That light right there, it's a bright point. Using a lot of the coal that's left on a blending stump to get that gray color. Once you've blended with it, you You can blend a little while and get very close to the same colors. So here's that spot where I'm just saying I'm saturating it pretty heavy with white. And then I'm going to fill this entire area with black charcoal. And then we'll smudge it out, and all the white will just pop up from underneath, and it'll look really good. So engine compartments are the easiest thing I draw. Easiest thing by far. Now this is going to be a light shade of gray. It's very tough to get this color with charcoal because you got to make it lighter than it actually is. To get a light gray is very tough. So, one method is just go over it with a blending stump that has some gray on it, and just give a little bit of dark, and that's what I'm doing here. Don't want to put much pressure at all. It's going to look way too bright alone, but when you get it next to the engine, I think it'll lighten everything up. So putting a nice crisp line for the engine. I always like to outline everything that's in my engine. I forgot the steering rod here, tie rod I guess it is. I like to outline everything that's going to be in the engine. Now if there's the biggest thing that stands out, a lot of times you get an oil filter in there or something that'll really be very, very bright. I'll outline that also and try to keep it as white as possible. And then just filling in like that, just over top of anything that's white. I can just go right over top. If you don't outline everything, it gets really tough to see where you've been, where you're going, and just trying to do as best I can to keep what I'm working on contained. All right, and then we'll just color that in. That's your entire engine compartment. Now I'm not paying a bit of attention to what's behind it. You can see some of it's still coming through already. I haven't even smudged it yet. And that white is starting to shine through a little bit. It's already looking like a little bit of depth. The worst thing you can do is draw the entire engine. What you want to do is put some details in there that you can tell the engine's in there. Darken it super dark, and then smudge over it, trying to stay off of that white that's beside it. And you can just color like a crayon, very quick. You're blending it out. You don't want to keep any of the detail in there. If it's light, you want it to be light. If it's dark, you want it to be dark. You don't have to worry about, like we did on the boards up there, tracing individual things. We're just going over the whole thing as an entire section. Makes it very easy to do. We've got, let's see, rear fender, tire, and floor, and we'll be done. All right. Just putting that line right in there. That's not something you'll see on the drawing. There's nothing to tell you to do this. I just wanted a little bit of contrast there. I feel like it makes the hood pop by putting that little white line in there and then blending it out. It does not match what's on the drawing. Doing the same thing for this tire back here that I did for the engine. I'm just picking a few bars that stand out as white, and then the rest, we'll fill in the inside of the rim. But we're starting with this just so that it'll peek through, just like we did with the engine. I'm looking at the top of this drawing. If you cover the bottom half, the top half, there's a lot going on with the light that I really like. And the bottom half is very dark. So once again, it gives kind of it's going to give the contrast of light to dark, top to bottom. Really good dynamics. I'm starting to sound like an art teacher from elementary school when I start saying stuff like that. Once again, just picking some details out. There's a lot in here. It's kind of farther back, slightly out of focus, not as out of focus as the back, not as out of focus as the background, or not as out of focus especially as the stuff that's shining through a window. And just like we did with the engine compartment, I'm outlining everything on the tire. That's where the tire is going to be. And then I'm just going to color that in black. And we'll make her look good. Nice sharp black point. Just moving her across. Very quick, very ugly. Whatever works, right? Try not to go over the brightest of the bars. One thing, most tires you'll notice right below the rim, there's a white reflection. And above the rim, typically on the tire, there's a little bit of dark. It's just something across most tires. As they bulge out. From the rim, they bulge out so that, you know, it's a rounded shape. Very easy to draw rounded shapes. You just got to pick, you know, the light side and the dark side and go for it. Putting some lug nuts in, but not much detail. There we got a fender. Very little needs to be done with the blending stump in any sort of detail. This is the same thing we did inside the engine. Just smudging quick like we're coloring with a crayon. It's going to look terrible. The problem is a lot of people, they'll get to this point and be like, oh, this looks awful. And then they'll stop and they'll give up. You're so close to making something look good. The reason the tire on the back looks so bad right now is because there's nothing below it. Absolutely nothing below it. The reason the front tire looks bad is because I haven't drawn it yet. So you take those things, and I've got a few little flaws here and there that I can clean up, you know. But when you get to this point, you're like, oh, it'll look better once you get the rest of it there. You gotta look past that. A lot of times I'll cover it with, you know, with my hand or with a piece of paper or something, and just look at what I've got so far, just to see what it looks like. Because, you know, the bottom of this looks terrible. The top looks good. You cover the bottom half, what's not drawn. It looks really good at the top. I'm putting a shadow underneath of here. And then I'm just focusing on that front tire now. Tops are normally always bright. Bottom's dark, mostly because the sun's coming from the top, or the light sources come from the top. Not putting much detail in this front tire. It's kind of, how do I explain this? You know how when you like paint a tire, it just kind of looks like if you paint over it over and over, you lose some detail. Well, that's kind of the effect that I want to go for here. I want it to look like real thick paint, very mechanical like. I don't put a lot of detail into front tires, even though they stand out kind of in front a lot. The grill, the logo, and the background's really pulling this drawing together. Engine compartment looks good, but this front, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. I do, though, after I'm done, I'm going to put some detail in there of the straw, because I really think the straw stuck into the dirt or manure or whatever it is on that tire is going to be what really makes it. So just keeping in mind where my light source is. Darken the bottom section, real dark. Top section, pretty light. Been a while since I did a live. I've been pretty busy. Just haven't had a lot of motivation. Some rough stuff going on at work, and just kind of takes it out of me sometimes. I just want to come home and lounge. All right, hitting a little light on that side wall, and then we'll start smudging. I always start in the middle and go out from my tires when I can, when I've got a rim there. The longer I smudge, the darker it'll get. We'll darken it until it's like a light gray. And start on the tire itself. So even though we didn't spend a lot of time on the tire, didn't put a lot of detail into it, it sits there where it needs to be. If you put a ton of detail in it, you draw attention to it, it's going to throw off the rest of the drawing. You don't want to do that. You want people to be focused on towards the center of the drawing and get the whole picture of what's going on here. So tire's there. It doesn't look ugly. Don't stare at it because it will get ugly if you stare at it for a long time. You just want it to be kind of passive there and just kind of sit. I want people to be looking at the 3 triangles in the front of the top of the hood and the grill. That's where I want people to be focused. And once their eyes leave there, I want them to go to the top right corner where that light is coming in. It's kind of where I want people's eyes drawn. So, all right, with that, the tractor's pretty much done. Putting a base layer down here of gray. Be careful in these areas not to blend everything out too bad. The shadows where the shadows go, the light where the light goes, as always. We can probably drag that up a little. There you go. Now you can see the whole thing. And then we'll go over top of this with some more details. I want the wood chip straw dirt floor to really look like a wood chip straw dirt floor. So we'll start on the top here. This is where I was talking about. There's that one straw that really just kind of pops out there. If anybody's looking at the tires, I want them to be focused on this straw. I'm going to put a little time into the straw, a little effort into the straw. It's the little subtle details that I'd say 50% of the people looking at this won't even notice that that's there. The other 50% is going to look at it and go, holy cow, is that manure stuck to the front tire with straw? And that's just what we're going for. A little bit of straw stuck to the top. Got some straw stuck to that right front tire already anyway. All right, we'll draw the straw underneath. This brings a new meaning to drawing straws, huh? All right, we're blending it out. I don't want it to be overwhelming once again. Just want it to blend into its surroundings, but it's there. If you look, it's there. If you're not looking, you probably won't see it. And that's all right. A little bit of straw underneath. Put a little straw in the back tires too. Even though I don't really see a ton of it, you know it's there. How many times have you ever seen a front tire of a tractor with straw and the back tire doesn't have it? Never. Prove me wrong. All right, I'm just kind of like I do with grass. Random directions, random lengths. Trying to keep it a little shorter to the back, but nonetheless going different directions each time. Straw doesn't land in uniform sections. We're not windrowing this. If I was drawing a windrow, that'd be a lot different. A lot of the straw would be going in the same direction. We're not. We're doing the floor of a barn that I think's covered in crap. If my drawing looks like crap, well, then I did the right thing. Looking really good here. Getting real close to the end. Don't have much left in this live. We're going to have a kind of an abrupt ending here too, because I've got this video going. And once the video is over, we're going to call this live over. So once we start seeing that signature, it'll be like closing credits. Just putting more and more straw down. Trying to fill the gaps. Layer it on top of each other. And don't start at the top and do all of it at once when going down. Start at the top, come down, add some, go back up, come back down, go to the left, come back down, right, come back down. Add some little, black sections in there. It's going to add shadows that maybe you don't see the straw, but you see the shadow it's casting, that type of stuff. All that good stuff. More straw, more straw. This is one of my favorite drawings I've done. It really is. It's definitely top of the list for drawings I've done of tractors that aren't mine or my family's. We'll take our smudger. We're going real light, real light. Just want to make it look more like straw. Barely any pressure. Going back over another layer. Don't be afraid to layer on. The more layers you put, I guarantee you the better it's going to look. You could sit here for all day and just draw lines like this, and it would look 5% better every single time you did it. All right, now we're just cleaning up, lightening a few things in the background that were too bright or just needed to be fuzzed out a little. For all intents and purposes, though, the drawing is done. Just some details left. If I remember right, this was a few weeks ago. I think I darkened a section here. Yeah. Just darken it right in here. And I'll smudge it out. And then I'll sign it in white over top of that. It just gives the contrast so that you can see my signature. But that's it. It's the only reason that that's there. It kind of throws off the drawing a little bit, but when you get the signature on it, it really makes sense and it looks good. So I'm happy with this one. I'm very pleased with how this turned out. And let me know in the comments if you made it this far into video. And yeah, have a good one. We'll sign it, and then that'll be it. We'll catch you all next time. Have a good one.